Hi Virgo, this is your December 2017 horoscope with me, Lada from Astrolada.com. But this is more than a December horoscope. This is a horoscope you'll be coming back to over and over for the next 2.5 years, because I'm going to be talking about Saturn changing signs. Hopefully you come back to it, because when the whole karma is shifting in your life, the whole karmic lessons, the whole karmic structure and responsibilities are shifting. So you need guidance over the next 2.5 years, how to best navigate the shifting waters, which happens once every 29 years, guys. It's a rare opportunity, but it comes with a different set of challenges than while Saturn was in the fourth house for you. So maybe over the last, and so the first part, I'll speak about that, and I'll also speak about December, how it's going to be. So stay with me. And by the way, I'm shooting from my bedroom, and I'm on holiday, and I wanted to shoot from outside, but I think this information is so important. I want you to hear it. And outside there are too many distracting things and noise, and I get hot and out of breath, and I'll rush through that presentation. But I wanted to be very diligent and take my time, because I think it's very important what you're going to hear for the next 2.5 years, because Saturn transiting the fifth house is considered one of the most important and serious transits. But don't get scared. Saturn is really well dignified in Capricorn, so it will tend to give most of the positive manifestation, but again, it will come with a set of challenges. By the end of this period, you'll see the positive results, but at the beginning especially, it might feel a little bit more heavy. And if you're prepared mentally, you're not gonna freak out. You'll be like, oh my God, I get so excited when I've been prepared about this astrological event, and it starts happening and manifesting, and I'm like, I'm so glad astrology works. I get excited that astrology works. I get excited that, okay, they present it a bit more harsh, but actually it's manageable. And don't worry, every condition of Saturn is manageable. Every change of Saturn's energy is manageable. And it's never a surprise. Saturn always gives you a forewarning. It's something that doesn't hit you like a ton of bricks. You're kind of prepared for it. So navigating through Saturn, yes, it's painful. It comes with challenges, but it is not something like your life dissolving and everything being taken away from you without expectation, So let's see. Well, the last 2.5 years, Saturn was in your fourth house, Virgos, which means it was a lot of duties and responsibilities. If you happen to have Virgo ascendant, Virgo sun, Virgo moon, maybe Virgo sun and moon, you felt it to a lesser degree. Family. Maybe there was some kind of sometimes when Saturn transits the fourth house, one can be disconnected from their home, or Saturn can also have disconnecting influence, either heavy responsibilities or someone that leaves their home and is disconnected from their home, or is trying to find a place to live in, but it comes with extra burdens, responsibility. I can give you an example. My ex-husband has Virgo ascendant, and Saturn in his fourth house was about selling the property we used to have, and it took much longer, and it was with some delays and difficulties, And so and it went for much lower price than expected, and it's Saturn, but it's resolved at the end of the period. And steady, slow, without pushing is the answer. And probably a lot of you felt certain matters like that, certain pressures or demands from family. It doesn't necessarily have to be material, it might have been emotional. And sometimes more like emotional loneliness of some sort happens. Okay. Sometimes even emotionally one can feel a bit sad and depressed. But, Saturn is moving out. And by the way, in Sagittarius, Saturn, where it was for the last 2.5 years, is not its most natural habitat. It's not so bad, but Saturn in the tropical Sagittarius, kind of Sagittarius is where we have, if you've taken my course on the 12 signs, we talk how Sagittarius is where we usually go to find joy and optimism, and Saturn's been suppressing that, which is the home, the environment, the emotional in the world. And it's coming out of there. So that's good news. Actually, Saturn always on an angle is difficult. It can even change the social status of a person in a big way. Private life, their more private life. So recapitulate, and this is what December will be. Saturn is in the last month there, and it's leaving around the 20th, and Mercury becomes retrograde most of the December in your 4th house. So there might be something like a throwback to the past, because Mercury is our thinking processes, and retrograde means we go over things from the past. So we might look back on the past and what was happening the last 2.5 years. Maybe some issues connected to property and family, some unsaid conversations connected to family members, to people in your private life can come back to the surface again. You might revisit home and property. You might and put things to peace, and either they're culminating, they're ending, like a last throwback of Saturn in Capricorn, Mercury, bring those things back again. They are to it, and you're wrapping things up. Time for you to sign up some contracts about moving away or and stuff. Maybe it's not the best time while Mercury is retrograde, guys. Maybe it's time to kind of improve something, fix it a little bit. Or unless you're going back to somewhere, you can do that. Going back to live somewhere, going back connected to family, to home again. Conversations can be very important in December with your family, and I think it will put to rest a lot of the emotional turbulent issues that have been happening for Virgo, and it's not been easy for Virgos. I've had so many Virgos contact me because Virgos has been an onslaught of difficult aspects, not only Saturn in the 4th house, but Jupiter was making difficult aspects from Virgo there, Neptune in the 7th house. There was like grand squares activated. 2016 was very tough year for a lot of Virgos, but even 2015 and 17 might have continued like that. Especially emotionally, you might have felt more a bit devastated, so to speak, or empty or disconnected, you know. I'm sure there are outer reasons as well for that, but for every person, it's been very, depending specifically on their horoscope, with more pressure, lessons, delays, you know, frustrations. But as I said, because the nature of Saturn in Sagittarius, it's kind of a bit clashes. One is about expansion, growth, and don't worry, when now Saturn leaves your 4th house, because you start feeling much more positive again emotionally. That's one good thing. Starting gradually from the end of December, maybe not immediately in December, but you know, January onwards, to feel more emotionally, you know, satisfied and happy, starting to reconnect with family again, or problems that existed there disappearing. And but the new set of challenges will appear. And again, as I said, December 2017 might be something like a wrapping up period of that. And some of those issues can come to the surface again, but to be released and removed and cleared off, whether it's on the material level, just anything to do with property and real estate and land, or on the physical, on the emotional, psycho-emotional level connected to your private life and sense of happiness and connectedness and belonging. Maybe you felt like even if you relocated and there was a forced relocation, you did not feel like you belonged fully, or something. Sometimes it's something like that. Okay. And even if it was nothing to do with those things, just Saturn making square aspects for the past 2 years to your planets in Virgo, maybe your sun, maybe your ascendant, maybe your moon, at some period it must have become quite challenging emotionally. And now it's moving away, and Saturn actually for the next 2.5 years will be supporting Virgo, because it will be in another earth sign, sending trines there. So it will have more stabilizing rather than destructive influence. Like, so it has more shocking, a bit more shocking, even though Saturn always gives you the consequences of something. But let's see how it's going to manifest, guys. Well, Saturn in the 5th house is considered a bit more of a difficult position, because the 5th house is about having fun, letting your hair down, enjoying yourself, and Saturn will suppress that. But Saturn is in its own sign, so it's It's much more aligned with the fifth sign that all Virgos have from the sun, moon, or ascendant, which is Capricorn. And the ancients have a rule, the ancient astrologers. When a planet is transiting its own sign, it will manifest potential of this house. Because usually Saturn blocks, delays, denies. This has the opposite effect. But now, or makes it, have to put like lots of efforts to get it. But this time, and it's rare, once every 29 years, Saturn is in its own sign, only for 2.5 years. Saturn becomes more of the good guy with efforts, with some delays, with repeated attempts. That's the nature of Saturn. You cannot escape it. You have to try over and over. But there will be result. Manifest your fifth house. What is your fifth house? Children. Have you been trying to have children for a long time and there have been delays, or even, especially for women that are a bit older, you know, in their 30s already, 40s, now and interestingly enough, people with Virgo ascendant rising often have, you know, the fifth house in Capricorn, which means that for them, children come a bit later in life. And people with strong Virgo, because Virgo is the Virgin, might often have children a bit later in life, or if they have them early in life, they feel like a bit more of a responsibility, a bit more of a duty, they're a bit too serious, you know, they try to control the situation quite strongly, and then they can feel like very crushing responsibility towards that. But now Saturn in the fifth house, the good news is that some of you, if you're pregnant or if you want children, now Saturn over the next 2.5 years can manifest a child for you. Okay, that's one thing. And again, it's especially, you know, you might have to have a few repeated attempts, but it will get there. Also, the fifth house is about romantic love. What do I mean by that? Well, your house is testing us about romantic love. It has the opposite nature. Fifth house is about opening yourself, opening your heart chakra, having fun with another, really accepting, you know, and enjoying yourself and shining. And Saturn is the opposite. Saturn is about building walls. Saturn is about being cautious. Saturn is about protecting yourself. In the fifth house, usually a person will become, you know, they might get hurt, so they retreat from the dating scene, they retreat from love, or they're disappointed, and they kind of like, it's useless, you know, and their dating life might get drained for a long time. But Saturn in Capricorn will manifest. So what can you manifest? You can manifest a very serious romantic relationship. It's not going to be this fun, you know, all surfing all day long, and it's just this head spinning romance gone with the wind. No, because actually the fifth house, because it's in its own sign, it will manifest love for you, but it's meant to be a love that's more realistic, that's more pragmatic, that is based more on necessity, that is based more on mutual responsibility and seriousness. You're just not going to be in the mood to allow people that are not serious for you. You can actually cut off people. Relationships that are not serious, with the sky, presented by death with a sky. In Capricorn, and you become unapologetic about your demands and requirements in love. You kind of get a more tough criteria for who you let into your heart. As I said, it's building walls, but it's another sign. It might be too painful. The building of the walls might involve like not having any relationship at all for 2.5 years, so not having any heart-to-heart connection with another, or just wanting to be someone who puts you down or who is not responding back to you. There might be like a crushing. Saturn is in its own sign, it will manifest and it will materialize, you know, a romantic partner, but serious, with a very serious, with a very serious undertones, and with someone possibly older, more responsible, someone who has Capricornian qualities, maybe someone who has Sun, Moon, Ascendant in Capricorn, Capricorn conjunct on the angle, and on the midheaven. That's more complicated astrology, but someone who is definitely somehow more serious, more organized, more old, who might push you into things, who might rain down a bit on your parade and on your self-confidence, but only to structure and organize it. And only if such people appear that hurt you emotionally, you will very quickly cut them off. You will very quickly see through their bullshit, to their ego games and stuff. And if you're one who does this, plays ego games in dating, if you're one who, allows too much anger or whatever that to ruin your romantic relationship, or too much, so too much, maybe you allow people to walk on you. It can go both ways. You see the reality of your actions in regards to romantically and why in romantic relationship, why love life relate. Well, Saturn's in the 5th house, but they'll become more present. I mean, like, they probably were always there. They always were there, conscious of it. And Saturn has the tendency to frame freeze whatever house, the agenda of whatever house it is. So we have time to analyze and to see exactly what it is that we're doing, slow things down, because usually things happen unconsciously. We act, and especially if you have certain love life, that unconscious motivation that you push off loved ones or lose loved ones and lovers, and in dating and in love because of certain subconscious behaviors. Now Saturn crystallizes that to you what it is. It's almost like a scientist. Saturn is one of the planets of scientists. You can analyze it. It slows down, frame freezes it. What do you need to change about yourself, or what were you allowing too much in love that did not allow you? So you're kind of building walls, but these are protective walls against predators in love. Plus, you are self, when Saturn is in the 5th house, to see, and it's more kind of in an impartial way, almost like a scientist, to see what it is that you're doing wrong. And if you're refusing to do that due to too much ego or too much, if you're refusing, it becomes very painful. The circumstances will force you to take a look. So it's very good, wherever Saturn transits, to be introspective, to analyze, to humble yourself, and to look for your own mistakes rather than accusing finger towards everyone else. Because now everyone else will put an accusing finger towards you, your lovers or whatever, children as well. It's scary. It's not scary. Actually, Saturn in Capricorn will manifest for you a committed love, deeper commitment with a loved one, but after some introspection, after some inner work, after some kind of what you're doing wrong, becoming conscious of that. And it might come as a hit to your ego. You might resist when we're being accused of something. Whether it's overtly, we become defensive, we build even more walls, and we blame the other one. But my advice for you is to be more perspective, look at what you're doing right, wrong as well. And because of what you're doing wrong, you might be allowing the wrong people in you. They might be the right people, but when you react a bit batshit crazy, or with low self-confidence, or asexually or whatever, there are different reasons, or too sexually, Saturn will allow you to analyze what it is that creates this 5th house, the house of magnetism, that allows the aura, the golden aura of magnetism that attracts others towards you. And some people have amazing 5th houses. They always have everyone. They might be married and people keep falling in love with them left and right, and you wonder why is that? They're not even that attractive, whatever, but they radiate something. So now Saturn in your 5th house, it will not allow you to radiate like that. Allow you to realize what it is that you're doing that is not, or it's blocking, or it's creating or slows down those things, so you can analyze your. And Saturn is not a bad planet. It only gives you the results of your actions, what you deserve. If you've been loyal, good lover, parent as well, 5th house is about your children. You see the results of that. You see that now your children become very organized, that become very disciplined. You see that your children maturing, and you'll be proud of their maturation because you brought them up in a responsible, organized way. You made them good people, and you see how they take their social positions if you have children now. It will increase responsibilities towards children, if you have younger children especially. It might indicate that your children are having a very more tough time. Maybe sometimes even separations can happen through children, in a sense, children, you know, going through some maturation stage and going, you know, some in Capricorn, even be, it's almost like allows you to adopt the right, okay, yes, you probably children more, you want to regulate and to do them in a more, to do relationship in a more structured, organized, maybe to give more duties and responsibilities to your children. And your children, you have more such connected to them as well. But again, as I said, it can manifest the child plus being a good, you can help you streamline your parenting and create more discipline in the life of your children. In extreme cases, very extreme cases, if Saturn is only making difficult aspects from this fifth house, there can be some more serious complication with children. Say, if you've been an asshole with loved ones, or if you've been cheating around, whatever, if you're not loyal, if you're just playing around with people's hearts, Saturn comes in your fifth house to see the consequences of your actions. Maybe now someone does it to you, or maybe now you lose someone that you consider important, or, you know, or maybe now you're on the other end and you see what it is to, you know, to be able to, you know. But again, as I said, most people are kind, they're good, they're not like that. And Saturn just allows them to understand what they're doing subconsciously. No, most people are not doing consciously negative things to others. It's subconscious behavior, and Saturn allows you to frame, freeze, and crystallize, and analyze, and realize, and change those things. It's not going to be overnight, guys. In your love life will come gradually. Maybe some more responsible person will come in your life, someone more mature who helps you gradually create a more foundation that is more solid foundation built on proper self-esteem. Often because the fifth house also rules self-esteem. Look how clever the ancients were. The fifth house rules lovers and people with, you know, and self-esteem. Who attracts people? Who has strong self-esteem? You know, they would usually be very romantically attractive to others. And if you've been building your self-esteem on the wrong foundation, say because you only have self-esteem and because of the money you have, or because of the great body you have, or because your measures, or something like that, that is not, so Saturn will reveal that to you through someone, through a relationship, whatever. So your values and how you approach love and how you measure love and what you consider in yourself, what gives you self-confidence. There might be some hit on the self-confidence, but again, be in a much more positive way, this thing, more like a humble reassessment of your self-esteem, and how to make it more, base it on something more stable, on something more long-lasting and enduring and essential, which is what Saturn is. So by the end of this period, I believe many of you would end up being in a more committed romantic relationship, unless you're very evil people and just horrible stuff keeping happening. Not evil, but let's say doing everything quite blindly, so you have to go through a lot of hard lessons to realize why things are not working out for you. But that would be, you need that period, you know, if you want something to change, then you need it, you know, the slowing down of this process. Possibility for older relationship, people that are older than you, more mature. Possibility for relationships that will not want something frivolous, and it will more serious people. You'd allow kind of building the right protections in love around you, and the right priorities. Saturn rules your priorities, like rearranging your priorities in regards to love. So, and in regards to your children, and in regards to your creative endeavors. Let's not forget that the fifth house is also your output creatively there, just like children are our output. And when Saturn is there in the fifth house, you can be quite productive in your creative activities. You can create a business, especially you can, but something has to be regulated, and something that has to follow rules and laws. And so, for example, you have a passion for cooking and you want to do a food truck. Fifth house is our passions, what we're child enjoy doing. And it's fifth house rules intelligence, natural intelligence, and it's third house is the analyzing of mind, but the fifth house is the creative, intelligent mind, coming up with unique answers, coming up with unique visions. So if you're trying to say, you have a passion, you can turn it into business while Saturn is in the fifth house, especially in Capricorn, because Capricorn is about creating something material, structure. But you have to go through a lot of regulations. Maybe if you want to do your, because it's your passion, you can turn it into business. Saturn is responsibility, business, but it's also protocol, going through legal loopholes in the legal system. So you might have to go through this really drawn out process, but Saturn requires it. And most businesses, actually, you have to do that. Start like that and they take off, and you don't have to put the hard work. But now Saturn in the fifth house will give you the discipline and give you the perseverance, and of course some frustrations and delays in regards to the discipline and the self-control, which is Saturn Capricorn, what is needed, to and the right material circumstances to do it. You just have to be patient. It might take a couple of years gradually. Plus, if you're in creative field, performer, writer, singer, fashion model, to make speeches, like Yogananda, for example, when Saturn was transiting his fifth house, he really wanted to make Vivekananda speeches, John says, and he wanted to start his preaching and his teaching, because fifth house is also connected to having students, being on a stage of any sort, performing. And the government, you see, censoring, restriction is what Saturn does, because he didn't have the right credentials, but he persisted over those 2.5 years, and at the end he was able to legally, lawfully get the permission to do it. So you see, the story hopefully helps you to know how it will proceed. Maybe if you want to creatively be successful, you have to take the old tested road, go through the, go on repetitively over and over on auditions and things like that, try a few times, and if you're writing a book, for example, something else, you have to be systematic if you want to complete that book, because delays can happen otherwise, so blockage to the creative flow. But Saturn in Capricorn allows to be very disciplined, and it would be every day, for example, or if you're preparing for something, performance, every day, consistently though, or maybe every week, a few hours a day, rather than trying to cram all operations within 1 week before performance or something like that. Saturn doesn't want you to work like that. There's too much pressure, stress, and duty, responsibilities with creative projects in this way, which Saturn naturally would bring, and it will the enjoyable process. So even block you, make your breakdown of an enjoyable creative process or performance process. So the strategy for success is step by step, little every day, little bit of creative. So write every day 30, 10 pages or whatever it is, or 2,000 words, or do every day if you're preparing for some performance or some speech that you have to do, 5 minutes in front of the mirror, but consistently, rather than trying to do it at the very last moment at once. Saturn in the fifth house can also gives responsibilities in with students. I just had Saturn in the fifth house, and with children, both responsibilities came. But again, if this is your mission, if this is, it's okay. It's not a surprise. Children are responsibilities. Students, if you're starting something, might be more, you can receive a heavier workload through students, for example. Heavier workload that feels a bit more burdensome creatively, for example. So yes, this is what I wanted to prepare you guys, Virgos. This is what I wanted to talk mostly about. I told you how December will go. Mercury is retrograde there, so what can happen at the start of the video, but do come back to that video over and over. And remember that Robert Finnick has a webinar on the 10th of December, which is about Saturn in Capricorn. He has 30 years of experience, guys. Me. And he was there, he was alive when people, and doing astrology when Saturn was in Capricorn. So he'll be doing personal predictions for Saturn Capricorn based on real life client experience. So you can see a very different perspective of how Saturn in Capricorn works. I'm giving you my conjectures, deciphering the symbology, and reading certain stories from before, but he has hands-on experience with Saturn in Capricorn. So wow, I think this will be the best webinar. And if you hear him speak, guys, master astrologer. I just got hooked, and he will speak about the world generally, how it will affect. He has such penetrating mind. It's amazing, and it's 30% off. So do come and join me and Robert Phoenix on Saturn in Capricorn, way more in depth. Plus, Rumen Kolev is making a webinar on ancient astrology. You don't need to know astrology. He's going to be talking about the zodiac signs and the different constellations, say the constellation of Cetus, the sea monster, the constellation of Athena-Pallas, which gives extremely intelligent people, or the constellation, it's something that is not there in modern astrology at all. And we're reading directly from ancient Greek texts. It's not even translated in English. So this information only you have, and people from astrologers from a few thousand years ago. And say, for example, you're born when, you know, the constellation of the snake was rising. Well, you might own snakes. It's actual depiction, really kind of like literal depiction of how your life might be. And all you need to know is your time of birth, and we'll generate your chart, and we'll go through all the degrees. 14 hours webinar over a whole weekend with Rumen Kolev and me. I'll be there. I'm learning as well. I can't wait to know this information. People that have been taking readings with him, they say that this, how can he know this information? It's stunning, and it all comes from this, what he's going to be teaching now, from the meanings of the, it's not so set as in tropical zodiac, but it's very literal. Anyway, thank you so much. Virgos, have a great last month of the year, and I'll see you next month.